Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I'm with Gina Clark. Gina is an artist, writer, and certified Kaizen Muse creativity coach who believes that everyone, even the most logical person, can be creative with just a few small tweaks. So thank you so much, Gina, for joining us today.
Hi, Daniela. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to share your story because I do think creativity gets overlooked and taken for granted as, a form of self-care, a way to enrich our lives and take care of ourselves. And I love how you say that even the most logical person can tap into this. My dad, who was an electrical engineer for like 30 something years, took up watercolor painting when he retired. And it totally matches what you say, that even the most concrete technical person can tap into and find that creativity and the things it brings out in you. But if you can share a little bit about your journey, how you found this for yourself and how you help people as a creativity coach.
Sure. First, I love your story about your dad. That is amazing. I love hearing that. But yeah, I definitely took a winding path to tapping into my creativity. I was always really interested in art, even as a little kid. I can remember being, in grade 3, and I was taking these big books on Rembrandt out of the library, which now just seems like what a weird little kid to be doing that. But I love looking at it. I was always into design. I was always into fashion, and I loved all of that stuff. And when it came time to go to university and, sort of pick something, and I think too, back when I went to university, there was very much you kind of pick something and that's what you do for your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think now today things are a little different with the internet and just the way work's evolved. But doing something in a creative field just didn't seem like an option to me at all, because it didn't seem responsible. It didn't seem like it was something that would pay well. And I just
careers were definitely judged based on just that monetary outcome, I think, at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think my parents would have been like, what are you doing, if I would have done that? So I'm sure that was in the back of my mind as well. So I did get a degree in art history. And I had a couple of other degrees too. I was a perennial student, but I did do that. But then I just never pushed myself into working in that field. So life goes by, get a job with the government, have some kids, get married. And all of a sudden, 25 years goes by. And through that time, I always felt like something was missing in my life, but I couldn't. I suppose I could put my finger on it. I knew that I wanted to do something creative, but I didn't know what, and I didn't know how, and I didn't know how to start. I didn't know what I was good at or if I was good at anything, but it just never really went away, sort of that longing. And I got to a point when I was in my mid 40s. I don't know. I just said to myself, what are you doing? If you are the one that needs to make this happen, if you want it to happen, nobody else is going to come save you and be like, oh, here's 2 hours every day to, just make some time for yourself and explore your creativity. So I just decided to start doing anything. And I was all over the place. I was writing, I tried weaving, I was doing all kinds of things. And in doing that, I had to set some boundaries with my family that weren't there before, that took them some time to get used to. And I think I I kind of played the martyr for quite a long time in that, it's the reason why I don't do this stuff is everyone else's fault, and not just in the sense that, I'm so busy with the kids. My husband he has a job like where he works shift work, and it was just always something.
It was never important enough, probably, is
Yeah.
what I hear so many people say, like you said, the kids, everybody else's stuff comes first.
Yeah. Yeah. And just feeling like you have to volunteer for everything. And I don't know, it was just always something that in the end, I realized that I let come first. And so I just started doing things like, small things at first, which kind of caused a bit of a uproar in the family. But I would start going to bed earlier so I could read in bed for an hour by myself.
I love that.
I know it sounds so crazy.
It sounds so luxurious. Like
yes.
You're just going to go and not worry. And
yeah.
and
it was,
but
and I didn't do it for a long time because I felt guilty about doing that. And I let people make me feel guilty, like my husband would kind of be like, well, don't you want to stay here and watch TV with me? Or why aren't you like having some family time? And so at first they were kind of, I think they were a little bit put out. And then after a few weeks, I didn't hear much. And then since then, like now it's just what mom does. And I just say, I need this time to myself at the end of the day in order to have a good sleep and be ready for tomorrow. And that's just how it is. And now that's just what mom does. So that was the start of me being able to put some parameters in place around my own time. So then that started creeping into, I am going to do this creative thing now. I'm going to spend a little bit of money buying supplies so that I can do this creative thing. And that's important to me because that was another thing that always held me back was, it's frivolous and indulgent to spend our money on a bunch of paints and stuff if I'm not like an artist making money.
Right.
And
like we put the value on something like that again into a monetary place versus joy, intrinsic kind of qualities.
Yeah, for sure. And so and I still fight some of those tendencies for sure. I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be for, but sometimes I'll catch myself and I'll say, no, like, don't feel guilty about this. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe, I'm asking for, I don't know, maybe I signed up for a workshop for something and it's going to be a Saturday afternoon somewhere. Like, I shouldn't feel guilty about that. And nobody should. Like, taking that time for ourselves is very important.
It sounds like you did a lot of work as far as deconditioning some of the expectations that you had set for yourself and for your family about kind of what held value, what your role was. And I love how you share, that it wasn't easy initially to get over that guilt, to set that boundary and to kind of rehabituate your family on a new routine, because that can be some of the hardest parts of fitting in any kind of new self-care routine, new practice, new habit, is not just your own internal longing, drive, motivation, but rehabituating the rest of your family to, okay, we're doing things this way now, and getting that pushback and not letting that shift you off your course. I love that you share that, because I think that is where probably so many people get hung up or turn back and say, you know what, it's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the fight.
Yeah. And with my husband, especially, I think initially he took it very personally. That's just the type of person he is. Like, he just thought like, well, do you not want to spend time with me? And so it took a while for him to actually be like, oh, okay, this isn't about me at all.
Right.
It's about Gina. And now I'm good with it. Like, I'm not feeling that she's just trying to avoid doing something with me, which was not the case at all. But
it doesn't mean you don't want to be with your kids either, because I think that's also what holds a lot of women back is, they don't want their kids to think that they're picking something else over them. This isn't over. This is like next to or supplementing them. Yeah.
And I think I think part of what got me through that part of it was I thought I want to show my kids what healthy boundaries are. And I want my kids to know that it's okay for them to take time for themselves. Like that doesn't mean that you're being a selfish person. Yes, we still do things together as a family. We do things for each other, but we also need to do things for ourselves. So that was something that I sort of tucked away to help me not feel guilty. I mean, I really did feel like I was trying to teach my kids this lesson that I learned so much later in life.
Yeah, it truly is a gift that we give them. We don't even realize it, that where else are they going to learn how to take care of themselves, how to set boundaries, how to make sure they're a priority if we never show them that?
Yeah, exactly.
So what led you to then take your own creative journey and turn it into a coaching program?
Well, I spent a few years, like I said, trying things out, and just getting more and more comfortable with being able to let myself be creative. And again, I don't know if that resonates with any of your listeners, but it was something that was really hard for me. I had so many, so now I've stepped through sort of some of that guilt around time for myself. But then the next batch of obstacles was, well, I'm not good enough. So you're comparing, this has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. Feeling overwhelmed that there's so many things that I could be doing and I'm not, and I don't have enough time. And so those were the next things that I had to sort of tackle. And I was starting to feel more and more comfortable with just letting myself do it. And just letting it be whatever it was, whether, not judging what I was creating. And I started a blog and I just wanted to talk about creativity. And that was something that I was trying to get to, where I just shared my message about creativity. And one day I was in the Google rabbit hole, and I don't even know.
That is such a huge hole too. I've been in there.
Yes. And I came across creativity coaching and I was like, wow, what is this? I have never heard of this before. I didn't know there was such a thing. So I looked deeper into it and found quite a few people actually that provide training and resources on it. And there was one in particular that really resonated with me, and that was the Kaizen Muse training. So I signed up for it right away. I looked around for a couple of days and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this because I want to help other people, again, get to where I am now, maybe earlier in their life, or just it doesn't matter how old you are, just it is hard. And I wish that I would have had somebody to tell me that all of the things that I was feeling was really common and normal, and that there wasn't something wrong with me for feeling them, because that's how I felt when I was going through them, that I was, I must be damaged, or I must not be cut out to do this because I'm feeling all this stuff. But all those things are really very, very common.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely it reminds me, I did a blog post about, ways to add creativity into your self-care. And I started it talking about how, when we're little, we just make things and we go running up to whoever's nearby and go, oh my God, look what I did. And we don't have that same self-judgment that holds us back, that for however it happens as we get older, we're afraid to put things out there, even if it's physically just on paper for ourselves. We don't want to get it out of our head unless we know it's going to be just so. And I think part of probably what you do with your coaching is helping to break down some of that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've used my kids and kids in general as examples, exactly like you say, because, when we're little, and even I talk a lot about my daughters right now are 12 and 14, and they're both very creative. And while they're still, they've gotten to the point where they're more shy about sharing, they just sit down and do something if they want to do it. They don't do what we do as adults, which is oh, do I have enough time? Do I have the right stuff? Should I, they just go I feel like doing this right now. So I'm going to pull out a bunch of stuff and spend 20 minutes, drawing in this sketchbook or whatever it is that they're doing. And I think there's lessons from that. There's lessons from that I try to take, because I often still can make it into a bigger thing than it needs to be, and put pressure on myself that, doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. It's almost more like an unlearning than a learning a little bit,
Yeah,
we're trying to get back to what we used to do and a comfort that we used to have. So how can people try to explore their creativity? Because I think sometimes people get stuck that it only has to look a certain way, that it has to come from Michael's, or, it's got to be like an arts and crafts, but creativity is definitely so much more than that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like to use a very, very broad definition of creativity. I think really anything that you're making and creating, whether it's, through some type of fine art, crafting, gardening, cooking, architecture, designing a room in your house, those are all very creative things. Writing, photography, playing music. I mean, the list goes on and on. And what I really liked about the Kaizen Muse philosophy, in terms of, starting, was meet people where they're at. Mm-hmm. People have the answers within themselves. So as a coach, I'm not there to say you should do ABC. I'm there to help somebody move through and get to where they're trying to be. So, the question I always ask is, what are you trying to do that you're not getting to? And see what happens, and then help them work through what's been stopping them. And my instructor, Jill Bodonsky, she's the person who created Kaizen Muse coaching. She always liked to say, just make something small and crappy.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a masterpiece. You don't have to try and make anything. Just sit down, sit for 5 minutes and just make something. And we do a lot of exercises like blind drawing or drawing with your non-dominant hand, just to get you out of that, perfectionist and think. So you're thinking more about the process, not the end product. That's really where I want people to be focusing on. It's the act of creating. It's not what comes out at the end.
I love those tips though, because I would never think to start that way, but that totally makes sense, that it's about the doing, not the outcome. When you talked about cooking, I know my kids and I used to always watch those cooking shows, where you had to create stuff with whatever's in the kitchen. And my favorite word I got from those shows was deconstructed, because basically it was you could take, it was supposed to be this, but it's a deconstructed version now because it's not perfect. And it was about the process of making it versus what the final product looked like. And it's about that grace of just kind of shifting, what the goal is. And it's not about the end, it's about the journey.
Right. And just something about the word Kaizen. It's actually a Japanese word that Jill has borrowed that is used in business. And it's a term that means continuous improvement through small steps. So
I love that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Can you say that again? Because I want to make sure everybody hears that. Kaizen means what?
Continuous improvement through small steps.
I love that.
So
that's a great motto.
It's beautiful because it takes so much of the fear response out of what you're trying to do. And as a coach, I talk about with someone, what is the next small step that you can do? What's the next small, easy step that you can take to move you forward? And then ask them to do that next small step and do it for 1 minute or 5 minutes and just see what happens. And it really can eliminate that automatic fear response that goes up where somebody goes, I can't do that because, well, this is an easy, small step. You're more likely to be like, well, I can do that. I can sit down for 2 minutes. And what often happens when we do this is we go longer than whatever the 2 minutes or the 5 minutes is, which is lovely. And if we don't, then we put it away and we come back the next time and we try it again. And that's all that you do. And you just keep doing that. And it's just amazing how that can move you closer to the place that you want to be.
Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you emphasize that there's small steps. We're not looking to create a big masterpiece. You're not getting the largest canvas at the store. You are starting with something small for a small amount of time, a small outcome and a small expectation, which is all so achievable and probably has huge benefits though, just from those small actions.
Yeah. And it also, it's a small amount of time, right? So if we're thinking about busy, everybody's busy. Mm-hmm. I think time can be the worst demotivator sometimes. But if we know that we're just doing something small and we're only doing it for 5 minutes, you can fit that into any day. Mm-hmm. So it's so much more doable because I used to catch myself in that way where it was like, well, if I'm not sitting down for an hour, what's the point?
Right.
It doesn't count then. So I'm just not going to do anything. Well, that didn't get me anywhere.
Yeah. That's how I
'Cause
approach even
never,
like workouts. Like if I have 10 minutes, I
yes,
can do it for 10 minutes. But I also look at it too. People sometimes, if it feels awkward or uncomfortable, to think, you can endure something awkward or uncomfortable for 10 minutes, for 2 minutes, and that's the other part too. It's not that you can do something positive, but you can make it through something maybe not so comfortable initially until it gets more comfortable, because that's how you work through discomfort, is not by obviously avoiding it, but by kind of diving right into it and giving yourself that out, like it's only 2 minutes, and set a timer if you need that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like it's a form of exposure therapy.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I was thinking from anxiety a little bit there, as well as, I don't know if you ever saw Kimmy Schmidt. It was on like years ago. And she'd always say, like, I can handle anything for 10 seconds, and you just keep doing 10 seconds and 10 seconds. And the next thing you know, it's 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely. One thing I always like to focus on as well when it comes to self-care, in addition to creativity, is gratitude. Because I think when we start to practice these things, we find what we appreciate, we find the good in what we're looking for. What would you say are some of your top 3 gratitudes?
Oh boy, let me think. A top 3.
Or
well,
2,
I want to return to something first, actually. Is part of what I do when I'm working with people, and it's something that I do for myself now as well, is, we like to focus on negative things. Our brain loves that. We don't focus on positive things as well. But just thinking about, say you have a goal that you want to, I don't know, have, XYZ in your life, and it's not there right now. Think about what parts of it you do have already, because chances are you might not have the whole picture, but you probably have some pieces of it already. And that's a beautiful way to practice gratitude. And really show you, it really resets like how you are looking at the situation, because so often you're like, I'm not there yet. I'm not doing it as good as this person. But when you think about it and think about like, well, what do you have? What have you done? It's a much more beautiful way to come at this place that you're trying to get to. But to go back to the three things, I have a lot of gratitude for where I live in this world, in terms of, I just feel very fortunate, because there's a lot of places in the world that are experiencing, war and poverty and famine and all kinds of things that, I was born here and I don't experience that. And it's, I just feel like it's kind of a luck of the draw thing. And I do have a lot of gratitude for that. I have a lot of gratitude for the support of my friends and family, for everything that I've ever tried doing. They have a lot of patience. They
rehabituated for your new boundaries too.
They did.
That's huge.
It was amazing. And I have so much gratitude for nature. I just think that is something for me that resets and grounds me immediately. If I live near some trails in a forest, it's just at the end of my road, and I can take my dog in there for 20 minutes and come out completely refreshed. And I just love seeing the things that have been here for so long. And it really makes a lot of what I might be going through so insignificant when I know that rock's been there for maybe millions or hundreds of thousands of years, and the trees have been there for hundreds of years. And those are my top 3.
I love it, because they're very grounding and centering types of things, that you really can just kind of put your intentions into and your attention and come out always in a better place. And that is the point of gratitude, is being able to focus on the good. Because like you said, our brains are trained to, we can have 100 good things and 1 negative, and that's what we're going to share from our day. And so being able to pick up on those things, it's probably part of a mindful practice as well, is so just refreshing to hear. So thanks for sharing that. Where can people find you, Gina? How can they work with you?
They can find me at my website, which is ginaclarkcreative.com. I'm also on Instagram at Gina Clark Creative. And if you do go to my website, I do have a free gift. I have a guide called 5 Simple Steps to kickstarting your creativity. And it's just 5 ways that you can just begin in an easy, simple way without getting overwhelmed.
I love that. And the links will definitely all be in the show notes. So please go grab that free resource, because I think just picking, starting with one and picking one of those 5 things and doing a little bit each day, like she said, is the key to really starting to tap into yourself, recentering, regrounding who you are, as well as showing your family how to take care of themselves. So I love all of that you shared, Gina. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much and talk to you soon. Bye.